This ain't Texas. Ain't no hold'em. Coming down, 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 down. Park your Lexus. Throw your keys up. Gather round, 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 round. It's a little big-time boogie and a big-time hoedown. Don't be a bitch, girl. Get up on the floor now.
I told her she was limited in the number of times she could sing it in a day. And of course, we're in the courtroom and I'm at counsel table and I turn around and she's sitting back there and she's looking at me and just shimmying her shoulders and she's moving her mouth and I know exactly what she's saying. She's saying, get up on the dance floor.
So I need to begin with congratulations, because the two of you are just back from the courthouse and you came back with a rather significant verdict. Do you want to tell our audience about the Lopez case? What's that case about?
Sure. This is Eleanor Aldous reporting to you live from Dallas, Texas.
That's really good. And I forgot something very important.
That was so fake.
I need to introduce the two of you. So we're sitting here today with Charla Aldous and her daughter, Eleanor Aldous. And it did sound fake, but she's really good.
Kind of like she's a radio announcer.
Yeah,
she's not.
She's a
She's
frustrated broadcaster.
Honestly, kind of both, right?
Oh my gosh, here we go.
So the Lopez case, $71.95 million. What was the Lopez case about?
Charla's looking at me, so I take that to mean that I'm the one who's supposed to speak.
Very good. Nonverbal communication.
Yes, exactly.
It's only because my brain cells are dead from 3 weeks of trial.
Understood.
Yes, mine are as well. However, stuff rolls downhill. So the Lopez case. So we represented Laura Lopez, a wonderful mother and wife who had 4 minor children with her husband, Hernan Murillo. He was 40 years old in 2019 when, very sadly and tragically, he passed away. The way he died is at a construction site in Irving, Texas, a Frito-Lay construction site. He was elevated 30 feet in the air in a scissor lift, and a boom lift, a 14,000-pound piece of equipment, was within arm's reach of that scissor lift. And unfortunately, the operator of the boom lift did not turn to look behind him before reversing, and he knocked over the scissor lift that had 3 men elevated 30 feet in the air, and he knocked it over so hard that it collapsed to the concrete floor below. Hernan died about 51 minutes later, and he left behind his lovely wife and their 4 children. So this trial was all about holding accountable Walker Engineering for his death. I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit more about the legal issues or...
No, that's okay. Charla, your perspective on it?
My perspective on it is Laura had my heart from the time I met her, and she had been a stay-at-home mom. It was a very traditional Latino family, and I knew we needed to get answers for her and for her children and to have accountability, because if you watch, this is all on video. We have a video of the whole thing happening. And even from the standpoint of somebody who does not work on construction sites like this, it was obvious there was a lack of training. There were equipment moving fast, close to each other. It was just a dangerous, dangerous situation. So my hope is not only will Laura and her children be taken care of, but that this will put employers and general contractors, electricians on high alert that they really, really need to make safety a top priority.
I was describing it because there is video, as you point out, from the Frito-Lay plant. And I was describing it to my wife, and Hernan and those other 2 gentlemen are some safety procedures. They're attached to the basket.
Yes.
So they have nowhere to go when that thing topples over.
No, they can't. They were tied in. They were required to be. And unfortunately, when we have a feeling they knew they were going to die, or at least thought they might, because there was this huge industrial fan that was above them on the scissor lift. And when the scissor lift started to topple, Hernan tried to grab it and hold on for dear life. Obviously, he couldn't stop the trajectory, but...
And we actually heard from one of the men that was on the scissor lift that survived. He testified at trial, and he said he thought he was dying. I mean, no question.
What is it like for the 2 of you? I went down to the courthouse, and Eleanor, I think I saw you in the hallway on the way in, and Charla, I saw you in the courtroom just prior to opening statement. What is it like for the two of you to be there in trial, representing Laura Lopez, her family, and Charla, you're sitting there at counsel table with your little girl, and Eleanor, you're sitting there next to your mom. What can you describe that for me?
It was heaven. It truly is a dream come true. Eleanor went to school on the East Coast and had indicated she might not ever move back to Texas. And as I was sitting there, it was almost surreal. I cannot believe I'm sitting in this courtroom with my child next to me fighting for justice. It's just the coolest thing in the world.
Is that the first time the two of you have been at counsel table together? Eleanor, you joined the firm when?
I joined the firm in 2021, and it's not the first time we were at counsel table together. The first time was in November of 2022, and that was in a case that we had joint ventured and we're just trying for a lawyer by the name of Ben Martin. And that was really fun, but I will say this time was even more fun because it was a case we had helped work up and get ready for trial. We had a lot more involvement in the day-to-day and behind the strategy and where we were going with everything. And I felt incredibly invested in this case because of Laura and her kids. And so it was really, really fun. And it's great to watch my mom because she's one of the best trial lawyers in the United States. And so getting to observe her and see her work her magic, especially in voir dire, is just really fun. And, kind of scary in the sense that you think, well, I can never, ever be that good. But, you can always try.
You rolled your eyes when she said, because she's one of the best trial lawyers in the country.
I don't see myself like that. I see myself as a warrior who fights for families. I will say it kind of feels good to hear your kids say it, though. But I don't know. I don't take compliments that well, I guess is the best way to say it.
We'll pile them on somewhere here in the podcast. There was a point where you turned around and you showed me some Post-it notes. Tell me about the Post-it notes.
Wait, can I tell this? Because she is going to
please
alter the truth in
Well,
this.
I have a feeling she may contribute to the truth when you get done.
Okay, that's fine. We'll allow her to
Alternative
contribute.
facts, isn't that what we call them?
Yeah, exactly. Or defense facts,
Thank
if
you,
you
Mr.
want
President.
to. Exactly. So I was sitting next to her at counsel table, and we had, I don't even remember who was testifying, but defense counsel kept leading and asking inappropriate questions, and I would turn to Charla and I'd whisper to her, even though I knew she was listening too, but I just was getting so heated in the moment. And eventually she turned to me and she said, "Stop whispering. If you want me to object, write it down on a card." And I said, "Okay." So naturally, I took that job to heart and got out some Post-it notes and wrote objections on single card Post-it notes and then put them all on the desk. And anytime we had an objection, for example, if it was leading, I'd point to the leading card. And then, sometimes it would result in a triple point because I'm like, hello, Charla, leading. And then, sometimes I would have the 3-finger point where I'm pointing at leading, speculation, expert opinion all at once. And it worked, I would like to say. Although she did say you get one single point.
I said you get one thump per card. You don't get to do the triple. And sometimes I may not object, even though I could object, because sometimes you shouldn't when you could.
And for the record, I know that. I know there's sometimes you don't want to draw attention to certain things, and sometimes you want to let them play out how you want them to play out, or you just don't care because it's not going to hurt your case. But these were the times that mattered.
I always say it might be painful, but it doesn't hurt. So you want to be careful about those things.
I saw the Post-its. You showed them to me, and I just chuckled at the thought of the two of you, having that sort of ability to communicate and comfort with each other. Have you ever had that with another lawyer?
No way. What's so great is, she knows me. I raised her. I gave birth to her, for God's sake. But it's really cool when you have somebody that knows how you think, and we actually think very much alike. And it's just incredibly special.
10 words or less, if you can do it. Charla, describe Eleanor for me.
Eleanor was born with her eyes wide open, literally, and I don't think those eyes have been shut since then. She's always been a force of nature. She's never been a girly girl. I would always have to go shopping and bring the clothes home She would not go to the store with me. That's still true. I still buy her clothes and bring them to her because she could care less.
Do you wear what mom buys?
I'm literally wearing a dress she gave me.
Wow, God bless us. Okay.
And she was my child that her older sister wouldn't walk out of the house as a baby without a bow in her hair. Eleanor would not go out of the door with the bow in her hair. She ripped it off. She's got such a deep, deep empathy for people, always has, and such a fighter spirit. She fights injustices. She did before she went to law school. She taught at City Year at inner city schools in the Northeast and trying to help children. And then she worked for a nonprofit that helped underprivileged children get into college. She just always has had the heart of a fighter and a warrior. And to see her helping me impact the lives of those that have been wronged is just, it's just incredible. It's been one of the highlights of my life.
It's so funny because all those things she just described that she likes about me, guess where I got them from?
I don't know. I might go out on a limb and guess. But so you refer to her as Charla in this discussion. I've seen you call her mom in emails too. Is she Charla or mom?
Well, it depends on the day.
Okay.
And also sometimes she's going to be Charla Mia, naturally. Charla Mia, get over here right now. It's funny. I try to, if I'm around people who perhaps don't know our relationship or our connection, or it's more of a professional setting, I try to call her Charla. Obviously, I don't always succeed in that. And then, if we're disagreeing on something, she's Charla. But yeah, mom as well, obviously.
The first time she called me Charla at the office, I almost got a whiplash. I'm like, what? And then it dawned on me, okay, we're at work. I've got to settle down. It's Charla.
My daughter calls me Mark, and it took me a while to get used to it. So describe your mom for me.
Oh, gosh. It's hard to do that in just 10 words. And since she took more words, I'm going to do the same.
I think we're over that limit at this point, yeah.
Yeah, I think what sets Charla, my mom, apart from so many other lawyers is a deep-seated sense of calling to this profession and a calling to the highest levels of this profession. What I mean by that is I've seen some unethical, immoral conduct by lawyers, and I've always hoped that our profession would remain above board and, sterling, clean, and all that. She really embodies that. She maintains the dignity of the profession and the decency of it. And I so admire that. But more so than just treating those in the legal field with deep-seated respect and kindness is her love for her clients, her family, her friends, that you can feel. You can feel her warmth, you can feel her kindness, you can feel her deep-seated sense of care for you. And the clients feel that too. In our case we just tried with Laura Lopez, she was so traumatized by all of this naturally and so closed off. I mean, she couldn't even look me in the eye when we first met. She was so scared to testify, so scared to be going to trial. And my mom spoke with her alone for about 45 minutes, and Laura just changed. She felt better. She felt more comfortable. She actually hugged me, which, was unprecedented for her. And then after my mom put her on the stand and had her testify, when Laura was done, it was like a flower had blossomed. She just became a completely different person. It made me realize she was just really scared, but my mom helped her feel protected and also helped her process her own grief. So that's the kind of person my mom is. She's someone who goes out of her way for people to help them. She wasn't just helping Laura for the case. She wanted Laura to succeed and do better and feel better. And that's how she carries herself with everyone around her. She's always doing favors for people, always helping people. And that's where I got my sense of, wanting to help others, wanting to give back to our community, to other folks. So that was kind of a rambling answer, but that's who my mom is.
It was a good answer. Charla, I've heard you and I've seen you before. Your clients become your family. I've seen that. It's interesting that Eleanor mentions it, but I've seen it happen. So now you have somebody who's family sitting right beside you. I mean, it comes full circle.
It really does. And I've seen, I just now thought of this, Mark, honestly. We have several cases right now involving sexual assault, and I'm usually the one that's always calling those clients, or they can text me or talk to me. And with those cases in particular, Eleanor has taken over that role. And I've got to tell you, it's kind of nice because it wears you down. I mean, the emotional toll it takes when you're so intimately involved with your clients. And I didn't even tell her to do that. She has just taken it on, and it makes me so, so proud. I've often been accused of being too emotionally involved with my clients, and my answer is yes, I am, and when I'm not, I need to retire. But it is kind of nice to share the load a little bit.
You have told me a number of stories through the years. I've chronicled them, some in my head and some in a server. And one of them involves something that you would do when the kids were little and you were in trial. You would put something on the refrigerator. Can you tell us that story? Because I want to get Eleanor's reaction to it, please.
Yeah, I was being a single mom. I felt really bad when I'd have to be out of town. This was before Zoom or the internet or any of that kind of thing. And a lot of times I would put photographs of my clients on the refrigerator door, and to the extent that I could, at the age my children were, what was age appropriate, tell them who I was fighting for. So they knew that if I wasn't with them, it wasn't because I didn't want to be with them. It's because someone else needed me. And I didn't think about it impacting them personally. I was just trying to let them know not to be mad at Mom. But I've seen through my kids now that it did have an impact on them about their need to help others.
So, Eleanor, tell me from your perspective, do you remember those pictures being on the refrigerator?
I'll be completely honest, I don't, but it doesn't surprise me, and it is one of the many reasons I think me and my siblings are who we are, because it's true. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I do think that all four of us are deeply empathetic people, and I think that comes directly from our mother. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. I really don't remember that, but that's because I'm getting old. So.
Oh yeah, she was
ancient,
and she was really young too. And you are getting old. Give me a break.
Do you remember when your mom went out on her own and started a firm?
Yeah, I mean, she was always working really hard for her clients, and kind of had to be independent as kids, and which also gave us a lot of good skills to learn from and draw from. But yeah, I definitely remember her talking about her cases, talking about her clients, talking about her trials, telling us when a jury was out, things like that. So yeah, absolutely. I always grew up knowing she was helping people, and I always knew the people she was helping because she would tell us about them and who they were. I just don't remember the pictures. That's the only thing.
So I want to point out something I was showing you before. This is so Charla and I have worked together for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. How about decades?
This is from 20 years ago when she and I sat down
in
2004, which is astonishing because she and I are both still 29 years old. But there's something in here because it goes to descriptions of lawyers.
I think I was 13 when this interview occurred.
you may remember this, young lady. I'm talking to Charla.
I cannot believe you still have this.
So the exchange goes, I say, is there a least favorite thing about the practice of law? And Charla, you say, oh, I hate paperwork. Pause. I don't like most lawyers either. And I have to work with them all the time. And I say, why not? Because most of them are egotistical jerks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But you have that in every profession. I'm going to assume that you wouldn't describe your little girl that way.
If she ever were an egotistical jerk, this mama would take her down a notch or two.
Well, I wouldn't have a job, so.
I cannot believe I said that, but I still feel the same way.
Eleanor, you didn't start out wanting to be a lawyer?
Oh, no, not at all.
What'd you want to do?
I wasn't sure. I was kind of figuring it out and exploring. And when I graduated college, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, I decided to do a year of service through the AmeriCorps. And I worked with fourth graders in East New York, Brooklyn, which is a high-need neighborhood in New York, obviously. And I loved my students, and I really struggled because it felt as though I was pushing against a wave of sand that was coming at me and would just fall through my fingertips every time I tried to push against it. because, you'd work as much as you could with the kids. They'd go home, everything would be reversed. And then, it was just a neighborhood that had a lot of needs that weren't being met, a lot of poverty. And it just was a struggle. I mean, I had 9-year-olds coming up to me during lunchtime saying, Eleanor, I want to go to jail. And I'd say, why? And I said, because you get gym hour for an hour, and you get food, and you get friends. So that was their kind of vision for their future at 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just a small example of a lot of the struggles and barriers that they had. I remember walking into my partner teacher's room, and she had been a veteran teacher teaching for about 20 years, and you could just tell she was run down and tired. Well, she had 2 stacks in front of her, and they were the student files. One stack was about an inch high. The other stack was about 5 inches high. And she pointed to the small stack, and she goes, these are the students we can save. And she pointed to the big stack, and she goes, these are lost causes. Now, this is 4th grade, so already at the age of 8 and 9, we're deciding who has a future and who doesn't. And I really didn't understand what she meant by that at first, other than I was naturally a little bit horrified, to be honest. But by the end of the year, I understood what she meant. There's just so many barriers, and education is so key. And if you don't have a good education, but you also don't have a good home life, and you don't have food, and all these factors can come together to really create a hard way to get out of that. And anyway, so I felt really helpless in that role. But I really enjoyed working with my students and helping. It's just I really felt helpless personally. So I decided, okay, well, let me see if I can explore other options to try and give back. And I worked for a nonprofit for a year called the Posse Foundation. They do amazing work. They help excellent leaders in the high school communities go to top-tier universities and colleges, and these are usually students who perhaps don't fit the typical mold of what would go to these top universities, but they've demonstrated excellent leadership skills, excellent academic records, things like that. And they would be sent in posses to these universities. So because the issue is not getting them in, it's making sure that they can stay and have their support systems so they don't drop out. Anyway, I worked in the development side of that, which is fundraising, things of that nature, and I just didn't feel intellectually stimulated in the way that I wanted. So, I had this first job where I felt really, really helpless. The second job where I didn't feel as motivated intellectually as I wanted to be. And so putting those two together, I said, what can empower me and what can also really challenge me intellectually in a way that I want? And I decided law school was the way to go. And, big credit to my mom in the sense that I even knew that was an option. I know for a lot of people, they don't even know that's a real thing that you can do, especially when you go to law school and they try to either send you the public interest route or big law route. You don't really recognize, or you're not told by anyone that there's other options such as plaintiff's work. And I just so happened to be extremely lucky and fortunate that I had been exposed to that. So I knew I could find a path where I could both feel empowered and also I could feel challenged intellectually and emotionally in a good way. So
I remember when Eleanor was teaching those kids, she would call me at night and just literally sobbing. It was so emotionally draining because she went in there and thought, I can change it. And it was so discouraging, but I was so proud of her for sticking it out and really, really trying to help those kids. And fancy this coming from me. I said, honey, you've got to set some boundaries. You can't get too emotionally involved. I remember saying that to her, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. It's never going to happen.
But it's so hard to get those calls from your child, right? To hear your child having a difficult time on the job.
Oh, it killed me. But yet I was so proud because, number one, she was trying to help, and number two, she cared. But I got to say, when she told me she was thinking about law school, I was beyond ecstatic.
Did you do a happy dance?
Somersaults if I could have.
It occurs to me that professor who pulled you aside, right, at Austin College and told you, Charla, you ought to be a trial lawyer, that move on his part and your willingness to pursue that path trickled down to the next generation, right? Because she was willing to consider it as an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and especially, I was a women's studies major. It's called gender studies at a lot of universities, and that informed a lot of my perspective on the world. And the legal field is male dominated. We all know that, and the trial field is extremely male dominated. So it is intimidating to come into this profession and hope for some space to succeed, because there are so few female trial lawyers. And I know that's not because there's not talent out there. It's because there are so many barriers to reaching that top tier of success, including, I'm not just speaking about, legal systems that's keeping women from getting to the top. It's also clients. People who want to hire you, they want to hire men, and they want to hire, alpha dogs or people who are viewed typically as powerful. But I'm grateful that our society is moving to a point where we now recognize emotionality as a powerful trait, because it is. And we've seen that in Charla's success, and getting this $72 million verdict was all her. Well, not just all her, but she was the driving force behind it. She was the lead trial lawyer, and she led with her emotion, and it worked, and it does work. And so I'm really hopeful that as we continue progressing and with time and effort and more perspective and knowledge, we'll see that women trial lawyers offer a whole new side to this game that has not really been credited or witnessed or appreciated before. And so seeing that as well made me feel as though I could do it, even though I do recognize the limitations that are in place right now.
Our producer, Alyssa, and I have spoken with women trial lawyers who said they showed up to court only to have somebody on the court staff asked if, they were a paralegal or were they some other sort of assistant, it never occurring to them that, oh, you're the counsel for this party in the case. And I'm going to hazard a guess that people don't do that to men who walk into the courtroom with a briefcase and a suit and tie.
Of course not. One of my favorite stories my mom always tells is, I don't remember where she was. You can maybe fix me on this, Mom. But she was in some courtroom with a really old white male judge, and it was a small town in Texas. And this judge, calls Miss Aldous up. She says, "Miss Aldous, are you one of those lady lawyers with a chip on your shoulder?"
She does a really good impression, because I've heard you tell this story.
Yeah. And, I think my mom said something to the effect of, "I don't think I am, but I feel like if I do, you're going to knock it right off."
That's exactly what
But
happened.
it's so funny. She's dealt with it with such finesse, because you can't offend them, because then you're on a bad side of a judge, but you also can't let, just roll over. So you kind of got to give it back, but in a way that's respectful and going to kind of acknowledge that, all right, I'll play by your rules, but I'm also going to create my own.
Right. And I'm going to hit the ball out of the park while I'm creating my own rules. Thanks for the segue to women in law, because that was on my list of topics from 20 years ago. Charla, when you and I sat down, you talked about it being a male-dominated profession, and you said this: "I tell young women who are just entering the profession and trying cases, as a woman in the courtroom, you have to earn the right to be mean. I don't think that's true with men." Last year, you sat down in 2023 with the Dallas Bar Association, and I heard you say the same thing when they made you a living legend. And congratulations
At
to you
least
on that.
they noted that I was alive.
Yeah, good for you. Talk to me about that. Why is it that women can't be mean, but I'm assuming a male trial lawyer can stand up and be mean from the get-go?
Absolutely. And that's one aspect that has not changed, because I did used to get called the court reporter. I think I'm old now, so they don't make that mistake quite as much. But as far as a jury expects male lawyers to be aggressive from the get-go, and they admire it. If we come in, women, and are aggressive from the get-go, then we're the B word. We're too strident. We're too emotional. All of those things. And so what I really counsel young female attorneys on is you've got to earn the right and let the jury get mad first, and then you can cut their legs out from under them. But you've got to do it. And some women come in and they try to act like the men, and if you do, it's going to go against you.
Did you teach your little girl that same lesson?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, she did. Absolutely. And she's right. Just from observation, you can tell juries don't like it when women are mad before they're mad.
You two were singing a song at the beginning of this recording. Is that sort of levity something that you need when you're dealing with matters that are literally life and death.
Absolutely. And I always say, if I'm going to be in trial, it's hard. I mean, you're working 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got to have some fun. So I usually think of a theme song. I've often sang the Alexander Hamilton music when I'm getting ready for trial. But before this one started, I listened to Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. And I got hooked on one song, and it drove everybody crazy because I come in the courtroom every morning singing it. In fact, I'd sing it to the security guards when we were going through clearance. And one day I came in, I was tired, I wasn't feeling good. And they're like, Mama Charla, come on, sing, sing. So it does add some levity. And it makes everybody kind of feel like a team and have fun. And being the lead lawyer on a case, it's not just about how I feel. It's the energy I give to the rest of the team. And I'm always conscious of that because when you're in trial, especially like we just were a 3-week trial, there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days and there's going to be going half mad days. And as the leader of the team, you've got to keep the energy up and the positivity going. And even when you have a bad day, just smile through the pain.
So you have to be the steady one.
And that's a scary thought. yes, you do.
I wasn't going there, but do the security people at the courthouse actually call you Mama Charla?
Yes. Because that's how I introduce myself to them, because they're all the age of my kids.
All right, last question, unless we come up with other things, and unless you, Alyssa, want to throw out anything. Here in the office, and I know this because I've been here a million times, and you and I have worked together a couple of years, you have this habit where you get done with a case and you ask a client to give you a memento. And there's an area in the office where you can stroll by and look at the different things that clients have given you through the years. Is there a memento yet for Lopez?
Do not have a memento yet, but I cannot wait.
Okay. If I ask the two of you to come up with a memento for the fact that you're mom and daughter and you get to work together every day and stand up for people the way you do, is there a memento that would go up on the wall?
I actually have one of my credenza in my office. A friend of mine, I sent her a picture of the sticky notes that Eleanor posted on the table for me to object, and she framed them. So I've got that in my office right now. It will remind me about hearsay on a daily basis.
Eleanor?
This is going to sound so basic, but it's the first thing that popped in my mind. Lipstick. Because my mom is always looking so fly, and she always has a lipstick, and she's always passing it to me to put it on because, as she discussed, I am more of a tomboy. But it's also a sign of female empowerment and doing what you want to do. And if you want to wear makeup. If you don't, you don't. But for me, at least, it's a symbol of femininity, of power, of putting on your face for a trial. So, yeah, that's what I probably would do.
Get ready, baby. I'm going to buy you some more lipstick.
Oh, God. Pray for peace, y'all.
Is there anything either of you wants to add to this discussion before we wrap it up?
What a joy it is that I'm sitting here talking about these things with my daughter. And to have somebody that gets what I do, gets the profession, we can talk about cases. I mean, it's really kind of obnoxious. We work together every day, and we usually have breakfast together at least on Saturday or Sunday. We don't get tired of each other most of the time, right?
Right. I'll just say I recognize I'm in a deeply privileged position to have my mother and to have my mother be as successful as she is. I know a lot of people out there don't have a mom, and certainly don't have a mom who's achieved as much professionally as she has. And for those people, my heart really goes out to you. And as far as me, though, I'm just so, so grateful for all the opportunity that she's provided me, but also for the heart that she's given me.
Thank you both. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, that was Charla and Eleanor Aldous of Aldous Walker in Dallas. You can visit aldouslaw.com, ALDOUS law.com, for more information about them and the firm and their cases. Make sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tune in next time to Keep It Legal. I'm your host, Mark Anik. We'll see you then.